concerns are real. Don't get me wrong. They should not dominate our hearts and lead to fear. Instead, we're called to seek God's kingdom and his righteousness, trusting that he will provide for our needs along the way. And then Philippians 4, 6, and 7 encourages us to present our requests to God with thanksgiving, promising that the peace of God will guard our hearts and our minds. And that peace is not dependent on external circumstances, but on the presence of God in the midst of them. You see, for us as Christ followers, the way to avoid financial fear and anxiety lies in the confidence that God is sovereign, he's loving, he's faithful, he knows our needs and invites us to trust him even when the future looks uncertain. And while it's natural to feel concerned about finances, God encourages us to turn those concerns into prayer, to rely on his promises, and to make wise financial decisions rooted in trust in his provision rather than the fear or lack or scarcity that can dominate our thinking so often. You know, this is the kind of encouragement you'll find in the Look at the Sparrows devotional. Again, built over 3 weeks, a short devotional for each day. I think it may be just what you need based on the calls that I'm hearing and so much fear that's out there. So again, if you'd like to pick up a copy, just head to faithfi.com/sparrows. That's faithfi.com/sparrows. And again, with a gift of $25 or more to the ministry here at FaithFi, which is listener supported, we're happy to send a copy to you and let us know what you think. All right, we're going to dive into your questions today. I've got 3 lines open. Sandy, ready to take those calls right now. 800-525-7000. Let's go to Alabama. Hi, Jackie. How can I help you?
Oh, good morning, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. My husband has this little pension that he has to take now that he has RMDs. They've said he can't, keep the little pension in it. Well, he can, but we're wondering if he should. It's $50 a month, and, it can go on to a third party, if we want it to. But we don't know if, it's $6,000. And so we don't know if we should do that. We don't need the money, probably never will. We have a lot of money. So, should we put it like into something like gold or something like that? And also, this was his last year of working, so he can have a Roth again, but we're like 73. I mean, do we still do Roths? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, these are all great questions, Jackie. Yeah, a few thoughts on this. Number one is you can roll it over from the pension, not to a Roth IRA, but to a traditional IRA, and that would keep it in a pre-tax environment. Now, you could do a Roth conversion and pay the tax on it, and then it would grow tax-free. You could also keep adding to that Roth. There is no age limit. You just have to have earned income. But I think specifically related to this pension, given that you don't need it, I like the idea of you rolling it over to the traditional IRA. Now, you mentioned you have RMDs because you're 73, and I certainly understand that. There is a way to satisfy that RMD and get that money out without paying tax on it, and it's through a qualified charitable distribution. So one option would be any giving that you're doing right now out of after-tax dollars, you could send from the IRA, once you roll it over from the pension, directly to American Family Association or your church or another ministry, and satisfy that RMD. You wouldn't have to give any more than your RMD if you didn't want to, but you could satisfy that RMD and it wouldn't be added to your taxable income. But with the rest of it that you're not taking out for charitable contributions, I like the idea of you investing it because you don't plan on needing it. You have a long time horizon. Let's get it into a good high quality mutual fund. Maybe you use one of the Timothy Plan funds, or Eventide or Guidestone, 1Ascent, one of the faith-based investing funds. I probably wouldn't put it all in gold unless this represents a very small portion of your total investable assets, because I typically don't recommend you put more than 10% of your total assets in gold, just because it doesn't perform quite as well as a stock and bond portfolio, and it's a little more volatile. Plus, we're just way up in the clouds here right now on the price of gold. So give me your thoughts on all that, though.
Yes, they're all things that I've considered. I listen to you a lot, and I appreciate you so much. And I'll talk to him about those particular, suggestions. I was telling him, you'd probably tell him not to keep the $50 in the pension like that, And I was right. I was right with your advice. One more thing, though.
Yes, ma'am.
We have that $14,000 we could put into 2 Roths this year too.
Yes.
Just last year working at 73. Do you think that's a good idea? We don't need the money.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Just because you have the ability to do it, you won't after this year because you don't, won't have the earned income. You can always take that money out. So the initial contribution, the after-tax contribution, is free to come back out at any time. You would need to leave it in there for 5 years in order to get the tax-free growth and be able to pull that out tax-free if you don't already have a Roth. But the original contributions you could get back any time. So if this is money that you don't need and you're going to invest for the longer term, even at 73, if the Lord tarries and you're in good health, you might need this money to last 20 years or more. So why not get it into an environment where it's going to grow tax-free? And that's the Roth IRA. So I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you so much. I do appreciate you, and we do support you. So
excellent.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jackie. That's a blessing, and we're very, very grateful. Call anytime. We're going to take a quick break, folks. Back with more on Faith and Finance after this. Stick around.
Streaming.afa.net has now become AFA Stream, and you can find it at stream.afa.net. You see, we removed the letters ing. Our experts have determined that eliminating those 3 keystrokes, multiplied over hundreds of thousands of AFA Stream visits, could reduce the national debt and maybe increase the gross domestic product. AFA Stream, formerly streaming.afa.net. Improvements to the economy are purely theoretical.
FaithFi is grateful for support from One Ascent. One Ascent believes that your values inspire why you invest and how they can inspire how you invest. One Ascent's goal is to provide solutions designed for every need and invest in businesses that bless the people and places God has made. They want to help investors do well by doing good, to explore a new way of investing that aligns with your values. More information is available at oneascent.com and by clicking Analyze My Investments.
Liberals are determined to fight any legislation that protects election integrity. That's why the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act has been added to a continuing resolution spending bill. The SAVE Act will make sure only American citizens can vote. States will have to remove non-citizens from their lists of voters. Please take time today to urge your representative to support the addition of the SAVE Act to any continuing resolution bill. Time is of the essence, so visit afa.net today.
Faith and Finance is grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing. For more than 30 years, they've offered financial wisdom for living well. SMI provides step-by-step guidance for do-it-yourself investors, from those just getting started to those getting ready for retirement. More information, including a short video webinar on profit and peace of mind, no matter what's happening in the market, is available at soundmindinvesting.org.
Well, we'd always wanted to leave some of our money for God, but we didn't know where or how.
Bernie and Alice Larson are faithful supporters of the American Family Association.
We felt like this was put into our laps as answer to our prayers as to what we could do after we're gone.
You can learn more about charitable annuities and other financial products at afafoundation.net or call 800-326-4543, extension 345.
Frustrated by your health insurance? Confused by the network restrictions and increasing premiums? There's a better way. Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM is a Christian community delivering a faith-based solution to the high cost of healthcare. Take back control of your healthcare with the ability to choose a provider you trust with no network restrictions and savings of up to 40%. Learn more and enroll today at chministries.org/faithfi. That's chministries.org/faithfi.
Coming up in our final segment today, Jerry Boyer stops by with his market update. Also, Walker Wildman will join Jerry and I here on the broadcast in the final segment with an update on what is going to be a very busy corporate earnings season. That also also means the season for board meetings of the biggest corporations in America and shareholder resolutions. AFA will be filing several shareholder resolutions to speak Christian values into those boardrooms, affecting so much of our culture here in the United States. And we'll give you an update on some of that great work straight ahead. In the meantime, we're taking your calls and questions today at 800-525-7000. Hey, before we head back to the phones, here in the fourth quarter, this is the giving season. Now, as Christ followers, we should always be in the giving season, right? But we know that here, as we head toward the end of the year, this is a particularly opportune time to be thinking about strategic giving because of the deadlines that are coming with regard to getting those gifts into this tax year for tax benefits. Now, if you're planning to work with the American Family Association Foundation on any of those end-of-year gifts, let me give you a few deadlines you're going to want to be aware of just to make sure that, there's plenty of time to get these gifts processed this year. Real estate gifts, deadline is November 15th. IRAs, so if you're wanting to do a qualified charitable distribution, you probably want to try to get that initiated with your broker or your advisor by December 9th to make sure that it gets in time. Stock donations, you're going to want to make sure those are initiated, just so you're starting the process, putting the request in by December 16th to make sure that it gets to AFA in time. And then cash gifts have to be postmarked by the USPS no later than December 31st. Cash and wire transfers have to be received in AFA's bank account by December 31st. So just keep those in mind. The team at AFA Foundation is always ready to help you and serve you, but those are some important deadlines as we head toward the end of the year, especially with the market doing so well this year unexpectedly. We headed into this year with the looming recession and inflation sky high. Who would have thought we'd be at all-time highs on the stock market? That creates a great opportunity for stock donation gifts with appreciated securities outside of retirement accounts. And so you're just going to want to make sure you get those started by the middle of December. All right, back to the phones we go. Let's go to Arkansas. Hi, Chris. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I appreciate you taking my call.
Of course.
So, my primary question is, I've been a faithful tither for years. But we're a single income family. My wife's a stay-at-home mom. We homeschool 7 children right now, and so having problems keeping the tithing going with trying to keep vehicles on the road and everything like that. So, prior to all this crazy inflation, we were in okay shape as far as that goes, but it's been a challenge, especially the last 6 or 7 years. So,
Yeah.
just curious who your viewpoints.
I get it, Chris, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and this is a real challenge. Here's just some thoughts, maybe. Number one is, we're going to have to go back and take a hard look at that budget and look for any areas to trim. Food is usually a big ticket item that is at least a good starting point. It's one of the 3 budget busters alongside housing and transportation, but it's a little more nimble. We can adjust it a little quicker than we can cars and houses. Beyond that, subscriptions, streaming services, you're going to want to look at ways to cut back on utilities. I mean, it might sound simple, but just cutting off lights, when you don't need them or use them, and looking for ways to make your home a little bit more energy efficient, that can be helpful. Just looking for leaky areas in the budget where maybe money is leaking out and you don't realize it, so have a good tracking system in place. The problem with inflation is the effects of inflation don't lessen when the rate of inflation decreases. You see, inflation is cumulative. So in the sense, the damage in the form of higher prices is done. And so even now that inflation is down, everybody's celebrating that it's down below 3%. Well, that's just the rate of increase moving forward. That's on top of the 9% increase we saw a couple of years ago and the 4 to 5% increase we saw last year. And so unfortunately, these prices are here to stay, which means we need a bit of a more permanent solution for you to be able to, allow your values to be reflected in your money management, starting with the idea that we want to give and be generous givers, and we also want to provide for our families and enjoy what God has entrusted to us. So although it's ultimately between you and the Lord, God is not an accountant. It's what he wants for you and not from you. It all belongs to him anyway, but he does want that heart posture. And I think New Testament giving is less about checking a box and legalism and more about giving freely as an overflow of our gratitude to God for what he's done for us. It's giving proportionately to what he's entrusted to us. It's giving sacrificially, which means we should feel it. You know, we got to stretch. The most famous giver in the New Testament, we don't know her name, but we know she was a widow that gave out of her poverty. And, you know, it's also giving cheerfully and, you know, not under compulsion. And that's what I was sharing about earlier. So I think if this is a season where you need to kind of dial back your giving, I wouldn't eliminate it. I'd keep that giving muscle going, giving systematically, but maybe instead of 10%, you're down to 5%. The challenge is we can easily settle into that. And because of what I said about inflation, it would be easy to never get it back up. And so I think now's the time, even though maybe you back off just to keep the cars on the road and the food on the table and all of that, I would keep that consistent giving going, even if it's less, but I would be really serious about looking for ways to cut back in other areas so that we're not sacrificing our giving, we're cutting back in other areas because, you know, this inflation challenge is not going away and we don't expect deflation, which would be the only way that we'd actually see prices come down versus just slowing the rate of increase. But does that all make sense to you?
It does, and we've tried. I built a really energy efficient home back in 2015.
Nice.
But and that was a blessing as far as that goes. But I lost my job. Lost a job near the end of that, so that really that destroyed us as far financially. You can imagine.
Yeah, I get it. Well, maybe the trick here is, you know, maybe you cut it back a little bit, keep it going, you know, as an automatic thing, but it's a lower percentage while you get some credit cards paid off or build up that emergency fund with a plan to restore it. Ultimately, it's between you and the Lord. This is a matter of personal conviction, so I pray about it, see where the Lord leads, but I wouldn't cut it out entirely. Hey, God bless you, my friend. We'll be right back. We are grateful to Chessman Wealth Strategies for their support of faith and finance. Their mission is to help clients make smart choices with their money so they can worry less, enjoy life, and ultimately become good stewards of the resources God has entrusted to them. ChessmanWealth.com. That's ChessmanWealth.com. The phone number is 214-572-2120. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
This is Frank Gaffney, host of Securing America, a program dedicated to protecting the country we love against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to the glory of God and His kingdom. Each weeknight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, we provide insights and recommendations about the most important challenges facing our nation from her most thoughtful experts and patriots. Join me to learn how you can help in Securing America right here at 11 p.m. Eastern Time.
As the leading advocate for the Christian financial industry, Kingdom Advisors serves the public by promoting the integration of a biblical worldview across every aspect of the financial services industry. And we serve a growing network of thousands of Christian financial professionals, equipping and empowering them to carry biblical financial wisdom to their clients, peers, and community. For more information, visit kingdomadvisors.com. That's kingdomadvisors.com.
Absolutely free. We know you've learned to be suspicious of those words, but really, you can get biblical financial wisdom delivered to your inbox each week absolutely free. Articles, videos, podcasts, and special offers on biblical resources. Nearly 60,000 people receive our free weekly wisdom email, and you can too. Create your free FaithBuy account by going to faithbuy.com and click sign up to begin receiving weekly wisdom in your inbox.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video, When Your Faith is Illegal, by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing. If you have money in an investment account, you know sometimes the stock market can seem like a roller coaster. But it's possible to enjoy both profit and peace of mind as a do-it-yourself investor, no matter what's happening in the market. A short video webinar about that is available at soundmindinvesting.org. Financial wisdom for living well. soundmindinvesting.org.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance here at American Family Radio. As a listener-supported ministry, FaithFi, it relies on your gifts and support. And here in October, we're slightly behind on our goal for the month. If you'd like to support our work, we'd love for you to head to faithfi.com and click Give. Maybe you love this program and you'd like to be a part of keeping it on the air. We'd certainly welcome that. Our gift to you with a gift of $25 or more is our brand new devotional, Look at the Sparrows, a 21-day devotional on financial fear and anxiety. We'll send that to you when you support the ministry. Again, faithfi.com, just click Give. Coming up in our final segment today, Jerry Boyer stops by. He'll be here along with Walker Wildman to talk about some upcoming work that AFA will be doing in the form of shareholder resolutions. What is that? Well, you'll find out straight ahead. Jerry will also give us an update on the economy and the markets. That's just around the corner. In the meantime, we're taking your calls and questions. Let's do that right now. To Maryland we go. Hi, Kelly. How can I help you?
Hi there. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Sure.
So I'm calling because I have a brother who lives overseas. He has a family. He was a writer, and about a year and a half or 2 years ago, he lost his job. He was fired from his writing gig, and he's really been struggling ever since. I offered to help him. The Lord has really blessed me with my job, with being able to help others, and I kind of feel like it's been a year and a half now that I've been helping him. Kind of like, if I don't give them money, like they don't survive. And I've been giving him quite a bit of money over the last year and a half now. I gave him money again last month, and he writes back and says, hey, I don't want to accuse you, but I really need more money. Can you give me more? And it's kind of gotten to a point where, I wrote back and I said, hey, maybe you guys need to really look at doing whatever is possible for you to get income for yourself. Like maybe taking a job, something that you don't want to do, but that will generate the money for you to support your family. And his wife doesn't work. She writes periodically online, but there's really no steady income coming in. And I feel like, am I honoring the Lord by continuing to help them? Or am I getting in the Lord's way of humbling them to do what it takes? I mean, they're adults, they're grown, they're able to work, and I'm caught. I'm like, they're Christians, I'm a Christian, like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to listen to that discernment, Kelly, because I think there's something there. And although we are called to be generous and compassionate, and certainly there's a lot in God's word that speaks about that directly as it relates to our families and our loved ones, we're also called to be wise stewards of our resources. And supporting someone who refuses to contribute or manage their resources wisely may not always be the best way to help. And so I think the first issue is to discern the real need and determine, is this, just as you said, getting in the way of them facing the reality of the situation and coming up with a more permanent solution. Obviously, the Lord is their provider, but there's a part that they need to play in working diligently and finding a way to support themselves. And, so long as you continue to fund this need, there's not any kind of real incentive there for them to rectify the situation in a way that's going to lead to more permanent stability. And so out of your desire to help, and this just happens so often and it's so easy to do, out of your desire to help, you might be, in fact, kind of interfering in something that God's trying to teach them, and what's really going on kind of behind the scenes. And I think that becomes clear over time where there's a real need that's sudden, and you step in and provide some help, and they're grateful for it. But to the extent nothing changes and it just continues, and you're not seeing a real effort to right the situation, right the ship, I think now all of a sudden you're becoming a crutch that they're dependent upon, and that's just not healthy for your relationship. It's not healthy for them financially in terms of the disciplines that they're establishing, and just what they need to do as stewards of what God has entrusted to them. And so I think unfortunately this is a difficult conversation because it involves some tough love, and it may involve a pretty hard and frank conversation that initially they may not receive well, and hopefully in time they'll see the wisdom in it, especially if it's the incentive they need to get back on their feet and do their part. So I would just affirm what you're feeling. I would continue to make it a matter of prayer, and I would just encourage you to say, you know what, is this the time where I need to either cut them off now and tell them why, or maybe I make one more gift, but it's very clear that this is it. And you all need to do the things you need to do, moving forward. Does that all make sense, though?
It really does, yeah, and it really does. And I wasn't sure, should I just reduce the amount that I'm giving them, or I think your suggestion is good to say, I'm going to make one more. I'm going to help you out for another month, but then you guys, it's just there's no reason why they can't work. They're both able-bodied people, and I just, it's hard. And I've had the hard conversations. They're very angry with me right now, and I understand, but it's like I just feel like I feel like I'm getting in the Lord's way.
Yeah.
Well,
it may get more difficult before it gets better, and so just be prayed up, be ready for that, because that's not easy with people we care about and that love us, especially when they're kind of imposing some guilt upon you, and there's some resentment there. But ultimately that's between them and the Lord, and you are the steward that God has entrusted these resources to, and the extent to which your ongoing support when there's not a legitimate need that could be solved by just getting out and finding some more work, even if it's not the thing they would prefer to do. At the end of the day, they just need to find a way to pay the bills and move toward something that's more sustainable long term. And I think you're right. I think this could be getting in the way of that.
Great, yeah, I was thinking that. Well, I really appreciate your advice. I think I'll try that. Just offering, hey, I can help you another month, but you guys got to figure it out.
I think that's a great path forward. Kelly, let me pray for you as you head into this. Father, we just lift Kelly up to you. I just pray you'd give her wisdom and discernment here. I pray for her brother, that you would open his eyes, and that he'd be able to see the love that she's exercising, not only in the gift, but in the withholding of the gift, and that he and his wife would realize their part in being stewards, and the fact that we need to be diligent workers, that you called us to that in your word. So just intervene in this situation. I pray that you would get the glory, that you would restore the relationship, and that over time you would just draw them even closer together as a result of this journey they've been on together. And so just be with Kelly as she walks this road, Lord, and we thank you in advance in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, Kelly, thanks for your call today. God bless you. Let's go to Virginia. Hi, Leroy. How can I help you, sir?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Unfortunately, I just have about a minute, so tell me quickly what you got.
Okay, so, question is, I'm about to turn 65 next year, and I'm currently on TRICARE.
Okay.
And I've been understanding that it's going to, I'm going to need to be going to Medicare and Medicaid, and I'm not sure how that works. Could you explain that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So since you're on TRICARE, you aren't required to enroll in Medicare at 65, but it's probably a good idea to do it. Now, when you enroll in Medicare Part A, which is the hospital insurance, you'll become eligible for TRICARE for life. That will then serve as a secondary payer to Medicare and could potentially reduce your out-of-pocket expenses. And Part A has no premium. Now, Part B does have a premium, and if you don't sign up at 65 and later you decide to sign up, you could have a permanent late payment. Stay on the line. We'll talk a bit more off the air. We'll be right back. Our thanks to Certified Kingdom Advisor Wade Chessman, President and Wealth Advisor, and his team at Chessman Wealth Strategies in Dallas for their support of faith and finance. Their goal is to help their clients expand their understanding of biblical financial principles and how to implement them. The website is chessmanwealth.com. The phone number is 214-572-2120. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
We don't have to be like the 10 that said it can't be done, it's too big, the Giants are too big. We need to be like Joshua and Caleb and say, you know what, there are giants. This is a massive problem. When you have a nation that is ignorant of the principles that produce a free society, start where you can. It's the only way I know. It's a little bit at a time.
Join Walker Wildman and Rick Green as they tackle today's issues from a biblical and a constitutional perspective. At the Core, 1 p.m. Central weekdays on AFR.
Financial fear is real, but so is God's promise to provide. At FaithFi, we know the daily stress of money can overwhelm your heart, but Jesus reminds us to look at the birds of the air. They don't worry, and yet our Heavenly Father feeds them. And Look at the Sparrows, a 21-day devotional. You'll find peace by focusing on God's faithfulness as you discover how to overcome financial anxiety with faith. Visit faithfi.com/sparrows and begin your journey with Look at the Sparrows today.
If the heavy burden of debt is robbing you of freedom and peace of mind, Christian Credit Counselors can help. We're a nationwide nonprofit credit counseling organization that has helped over 300,000 individuals in the last 27 years get out of credit card debt 80% faster while honoring that debt in full. To learn how Christian Credit Counselors can help you, visit ChristianCreditCounselors.org. That's ChristianCreditCounselors.org, or call 800-557-1985.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. Well, in our final segment on Fridays, our good friend Jerry Boyer stops by. Jerry's resident economist here at Faith and Finance, and he brings his market commentary. We'll also be talking today in just a moment about shareholder resolution periods coming up in front of us, and the work that AFA is going to be doing with some specific shareholder resolutions just around the corner. Also, Walker Wildman will stop by as well. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing great. All right, did you watch the Tesla event last night? Because apparently the future's here, buddy.
Yeah, I didn't. Okay. I didn't watch the Tesla. I was working last night, but what did I miss?
Well, we're all going to have robots, and Elon said they're going to watch your kids, do dinner, and get the groceries, and then we're all going to have robo-taxis, and when you're not driving, and apparently people only drive 10 hours a week, when you're not driving, you're going to push a button, and it's going to put it in circulation in the robo-taxi fleet, and you'll get a check at the end of the month, and then it'll come back home when you're ready for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I found in the tech area, things that people say are going to happen in 2 years happen in 20 years.
Right.
Look, I use AI every day, and it ain't ready to replace humans.
Yeah, I know you've said before it's kind of like an intern, and that's the way I look at it. It's very helpful, but you got to check it.
Yeah, it's like an intern who will work all the time and works more quickly than a regular intern, but actually knows less than a typical intern.
Yeah.
So it really requires a whole lot of supervision. That having been said, it's a blessing. I consider artificial intelligence a blessing. I think that Christians, instead of being afraid of it, ought to steer it in the right direction and train it properly. That's what you do with interns, right? You train them properly. Well, we need to train AI properly so that it doesn't sound like an atheist troll and starts to sound more like truth.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that. All right, Jerry, let's talk about the markets and the economy. I mean, here we are, everything's green across the board, and we've got Iran launching missile attacks on Israel, and the VIX is up, which just means volatility is up, and yet the market continues to perform. How do you assess overall just the markets at this point?
I would assess it using the aperture that we've been using now for years, which seems to really explain things very well, which is when you want to understand what the market is doing and why it's doing it, you have to look at the biggest participant in the market, the largest investor. Remember those commercials? I work for E.F. Hutton, and E.F. Hutton says, and people lean in.
Yeah.
Well, now it's I work at the Fed, and the Fed says, and then lean in, because that's a $9 trillion investor. It's like a gigantic hedge fund. So when people look at the VIX, which is volatility, a fear metric, well, if there's a lot of fear, that means it's more likely that the Fed's going to cut rates. If you look at geopolitical risk, when you see missiles flying over Israel, well, what does that do? Well, that drives oil prices up, which they have gone up. Well, the Fed looks at that and says, well, higher oil prices are inflationary. By the way, I don't actually think they are, but that's how they're interpreted by them. So you have to put yourself in their mindset. Also, inflation came in, and it was, a little lower than it's been. I would not say inflation's beaten, but it's lower. So that, again, is kind of giving permission for the Fed to cut rates. So when all of those things say, that, by the way, cut rates is just what's really happening is they're creating money and buying securities. Yeah. So if the Fed is going to create money and buy securities, then, with a sense that maybe, high oil prices are going to slow the economy down, therefore we need to stimulate it. So all the fear, all the scary stuff basically says, if there's a lot of scary stuff, high VIX, Middle East war, high oil prices, then the Fed is going to give us all an antidepressant in the form of buying securities. Therefore, markets go up. So again, we're not trying to